Hi guys, we're gonna get started in a minute. Just letting everybody get connected with their audio. This is Megan. And we'll get on with our last session of the training today. So just 1 second and we'll get started. I do have to throw a personal shout out to you guys. You've been very, very good about attendance and being committed to this project each and every time. So we thank you very much for your consistency and commitment to learning the training program that we've provided and showing up every week. So thank you for that. And yes, Kate, I have the link. Okay, so with that, Pam, I'm gonna turn it over to you so we can get started, and let me know if you need anything on my end while we go through the training today. And thanks again for joining us, everybody.
Okay, great. Welcome everybody to our last of 4 sessions. I was going to send you all a handout before our class, and I realized it was only halfway completed. Somebody had asked, I had been like literally in real time creating text inside of a grant writing template, and we had already covered the first couple of sections. And what I want to do is finish those out today so that you'll have it all in one spot. So I didn't forget or decide to not send it. My intention is to send it, but it will be complete after today. So our learning objectives today, and this should cover everything that we signed up to do, including on your pre and post test, and that is how to identify evidence-based practices and programs, how you identify those and select them for your population of focus and the outcomes you're hoping to achieve. How to document your staff and organizational experience in your grant, how to create templates to display key information, and then also how to identify key information to include in a letter of collaboration. So we'll work a few other things in between, but those are the main things that we hope to accomplish. So in terms of starting with the first one, how we're going to get our evidence-based programs and practices selected and make the case that they are appropriate to our population of focus. So I did leave for you the samhsa.gov website here, which when you go there, then you click on a tab that has to do with evidence-based practices. It used to be they had a phenomenal directory called NREP, the National Registry for Effective Programs and Practices. And it was like a repository. And you could type in, I'm looking for programs for youth or programs for pregnant women, looking for mental health or looking for substance abuse programming or looking for co-occurring disorder. You could literally type in all these different ways to identify what you're looking for. And it would say, after you push the button enter, it would say, we have found 17 programs that match your inquiry, and then you drill down and you look at those and decide which ones are the most interesting. And maybe you look at their outcomes and you decide which ones you like the most. Well, that was dismantled, but if you go to samhsa.gov, you still can download different publications that have some evidence-based practices in them. But I'm going to be showing you instead, I'm going to show you the one of the documents that I already shared with you last week, which was in our PowerPoint, and it had to do with, okay, let me figure out how I do this now. Hold on a minute. Okay. First, tell me, do you see now a Word document?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to show you real quickly that you might remember this is what we started last week, where I started writing in I pretended like we had a project called Thrive, and I started giving some introduction, just some little prompts to remind you of all the detail that is expected in this area. I literally broke down the little prompt, so the prompt is describe the extent of the problem in the catchment area, including the service gaps, the extent of need, the prevalence, da, 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 da. And I took all of that, broke them down, and started this, the sentence just to make sure to capture that level of detail. So in here it talks about the catchment area that our proposed Thrive project is covering is yada yada. Then we talked about the challenges, all the things they ask you for. And I just did that, this almost like a little framework to help you. Then you would then kind of fill in all the blanks, and that way you would be sure to answer in detail the amount of detail that they wanted. Then we went through last week the proposed implementation approach, and I showed you how to create not only the goals and objectives and all of that kind of a thing, using the required activities of the grant, but we even created a little timeline, and I pasted that in. And so you'll see some of that there. Now we're going down to this, which is and of course here where it asks for the number of people you would serve unduplicated. This was a 2-year grant, so it's year 1, year 2, and then a total. People always ask, do you shoot high or low? And I say be as realistic as you can, but also make sure that if you were to divide the total amount of the grant award by the number of people, well, first, what I do is I deduct out the cost of the project evaluation. Usually you spend about 15 to 20% of a total grant award on project evaluation. Usually the grant will tell you what your upper limit is of what's the most you can spend. So just to keep it simple, let's say that we had a budget of 300,000. And so let's say that we spent 60,000, 20% on the grant. So I would take 300,000, I would deduct 60,000, which is the cost of the evaluation. That's kind of an administrative task. And I would end up with 240,000 left. And then I would say to myself, okay, how many people can I reach with my grant? And I would look at my tribal community or my school, and I would look at, what does my past experience tell me I can logically reach, and how many people I can fit in my after school program or my in-school program or my residential program or whatever it is I'm asking for funding for. And then I would divide that amount of people by the grant amount, minus the evaluation. So let's say I decided that I wanted to serve 100 people, and I felt like that was a number I could serve. I would then say, I would go ahead and take 240,000, that was my total grant minus the evaluation cost, and then divide that by my 100 people. And that would say that each person, it would cost me about $2,400 to provide that service. And I would say to myself, is that a good number? Does that seem reasonable? Now, if it were a residential treatment program, no, that would be way too cheap. That would be not enough money. I would say no, 100. I can't serve 100 people because I can't put somebody in a whole residential treatment program for 2,400. I might need 3 times that amount. So I then look at, can you make a good case that this is what it would cost? Now, for an after school program to serve somebody for a summer or for three months or something like that, yeah, you just kind of work it out with, maybe play around with some math and say, is this reasonable? But at the end of the day, the number that you propose should be whatever you think you can realistically achieve. And also keep in mind that in some places, particularly in some tribal communities that are more rural and remote, then the geography alone makes it difficult to get a hold of people, and the cost might go up. So if you feel like you've got a very high cost of what maybe a reasonable program would cost, you put a little asterisk in and say, we will attempt to reach additional individuals. However, the cost of doing business in our rural remote area is quite high. And therefore the numbers that we are able to serve are not as robust as some grantees might experience, or something like that. Or that we have just a very small tribal community to begin with, so we don't have a big number to serve. Now, that may mean that you don't ask for the full amount, because remember, when a grant says, you know, you can get up to X number of dollars, let's say 300,000 a year for 3 years. You want to, you know, you can't go over that amount, but usually you can come in for less. And that might be a way to go if you feel like it's too too high by going in for that larger amount. So that's just how I do it. I use this combination of kind of a formula to make sense. And you could even ask other people that you know, maybe look at the cost of what it costs for other programs that you've provided in the past by doing that same kind of math and trying to find something reasonable. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is try to, wait a minute now, let's see here. I'm going to try a new share. And what I'm trying to do is go here on the internet to, I'm sorry, I'm just a little rusty with how to do this again. Okay. All right, let me try something else here. Sorry, just bear with me. Try this again. I'm going to stop sharing. Go back. Okay, share screen. And then I'm going to go to the internet. And I might need some help here. Let me see, why is it not? How do I get back out? I opened all the windows so that I would have all this ready.
So up in the left corner, I believe, you're going to want to pick the screen that you want to share.
Right, but I want to share. Oh, okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to, do you see
There you go.
something that says evaluation outcomes?
You bet.
Okay. All right, so what I want to do is take you to the, all right, there is the PowerPoint that I shared with you on the very first day, which you all should have, had some sources for evidence-based practices. And in there was something called Bridging the Gap. And Bridging the Gap was a publication made in 2015 that was specific to American Indians and Alaska Natives. And I shared the link to it and showed you a little picture of it. When you go through that document, I picked two. I went to that one because it was specific to American Indian, Alaska Native. And I picked two programs that I thought would be helpful to review with you all. There were several of them in there, probably 8 or 10. One of them was called Project Venture, which that's what this one is. And then the other one was was a Zuni Life Skills program. And so I'm going to show you right now that if you then clicked on the Project Venture, it would take you to a website that would then have several tabs. And this is one that was called Evaluation. This one shows you that this program was tested with adolescents in grades 5 through 9 in Indian school and community settings. It showed that, now these are some old statistics, but it showed that in 2001, that there was a 32% decrease in past 30-day alcohol use. It was not statistically significant, but that they did have some other improvements in here. And so you can see all of their evaluation data shows right up when you Google this particular model. So you would look at that and say, okay, are these similar outcomes that I would like to have? Okay, now I'm going to go again, and I'm going to pick a different one, because what I want to show you is the I'm getting so frustrated because it just doesn't, it's not showing. I have like 5 windows open in my
Go back to sharing your screen again.
okay, share. I am, but it's not showing me. Let's see. Okay, wait, now it might. Okay, there.
There you go.
Does that show? Does it show something called Project Venture?
Yep.
Good. Okay. So that is the description of Project Venture. I meant to show you this first, and then I was going to show you the evaluation. But if this was the program that you were going to implement, then what you would do is literally start highlighting everything that it says, and you would then copy and paste it into the section called evidence-based programs. You would then cite the source. So I would put the name of the website where I got it. And then I would put a little note that said, the information below came from www. Whatever the address is, so that they knew that it doesn't make sense for me to change the description that the developer wrote. This is the accurate scientific description, and it doesn't make any sense for me to change that. First of all, I might make it incorrect. Now, that doesn't mean that you then don't add your own words, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But this is a particular program. It's an outdoor experiential youth development program, 5th to 8th graders. It's strength-based. It involves 20 one-hour classroom activities. Then it goes hiking and camping for 3 to 10 days, an immersion summer camp program, yada, yada, yada. If this is what I felt like was what I was looking for, if I read this and said, you know what, when I look at my needs of my community in section A, this is just the kind of thing that would help, these kids that I want to serve. And so you would then perhaps pick this, and then you would go to the evaluation section that I just showed you a second ago, the one that came up a minute ago. And then you would also copy and paste that evaluation of this program, found it was statistically significant here, maybe not so much there, but it's still being reviewed, whatever it says. You then paste that in, and again, cite your source. That page, that website will be very similar, but it might have a couple letters difference because you're under a different tab of the website. So you always document where you got it from. So I'm showing you that, but what I really am going to do now is I'm going to show you the one that I want to actually demonstrate. And so the demonstrating one is going to be, how do I see the tab is in the way of me picking? Let's see, there we go. There we go. Okay, can you see this? American Indian Life Skills Development.
Yep.
Thank goodness. Okay, this is the one we're going to demonstrate in the writing. So I'm showing you 2 examples, but the one we're going to now write from, because I already did a little preparation for this in advance. So if you go to youth.gov, that is a place that you can find programs. I did do that. I went to youth.gov, and then it gives you like a menu, and I said, I want to look for something for American Indian youth. And this, I think, might have been the only program that came up under youth.gov, but that's just one of the many places that you can go. Also, again, this American Indian Life Skills program, also called Zuni Life Skills, came out of that Bridging the Gap document that you will find in the very first PowerPoint that I sent you all. So there's a couple different ways to get there. I'm going to show you on this page what I did, and then I'll show it to you in the Word. So this is called Program Goals Target Pop, the American Indian Life Skills curriculum, also known as Zuni Life Skills, school-based, culturally sensitive, for American Indian adolescents. It's tailored to Indian norms and values. It's designed to reduce behavioral and cognitive problems, I would never change this. This is exactly what the developer wants their description to be. These are like, think of these as like, what is the word I'm thinking of? Franchise. Think of it as a franchise. If you go to McDonald's, you go to Burger King, you're going to get a set menu. Everything's exactly the same, no matter which McDonald's you go to, because they all follow the same ingredients and they're required to. And so the same thing here. This is a very set program. Now, I might suggest adapting it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But for purposes of the description, I'm going to literally take all of this information, the program components, each of the lessons. I might even go all the way down here where it talks about ages. What I think I did is I stopped here. And then when I copy and pasted it into my Word document, I had to then change the font to Times New Roman 12. The font was very light gray and hard to see. I had to make it black so you could easily see it. So I had to make a few little changes. Then I came back here and I grabbed this, the program evaluation. What did it find? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch and now go back to the Word document that we've been working with. And so voila, tell me if I'm back on the Word.
You are.
Good. So now here's where I pasted it. So here's, like I told you, reviewer note, the information below about our selected model came from the following source. And I provided the link right there. And you can see this is verbatim, the American Indian Life Skills, everything you see here, right under my proposed evidence-based program. I get 25 points. I can only have 2 pages, give or take. Again, these are, as long as you don't go over 10 pages in this particular grant, it's approximate. I might do 2.5 pages, but then I got to steal a half a page from another section because you cannot go over 10 pages total. But anyway, you can see that all I did literally was I pasted all of this in. And then I talk about, so I'm already at I'm almost done with that whole section because I pasted it straight out of the website. However, I did not include the age range yet. I'll have to go do that. And I did not want to include all the evaluation data because it got very confusing. So I just put part of it that I thought made the most sense. We talked about that the intervention students demonstrated higher levels of problem solving skills, but only in more mild suicide scenario. That's just what it was. So, you know, you have to report what they say. However, let's go back up and look at what are the prompts that I'm answering, because it's not just list your program and describe it. It's identify the practice and traditional practices that will be used, discuss how each EBP, because you might have multiple EBPs, is appropriate for your population of focus and the outcomes you want to achieve. So what I'm going to do here, just like I was showing you above, I'm going to say here, the evidence-based program that we selected is and then I continue on, American Indian, also known as the Zuni Life Skills Curriculum. It is a school-based, culture sensitive. Okay, good. So now I've answered this little piece right here. Now I got to discuss how it is appropriate for the population of focus. And then I'm going to talk about the outcomes. So now I'm going to go copy this little prompt here. I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to see this is just describing the program, how often it meets. I'm going to stop at the evaluation because that's where you talk about outcomes. Now I'm going to insert a little prompt here. I'm going to say, we selected this EBP as appropriate for our population of focus for a number of reasons. First, we wanted to implement a program for youth that was designed expressly for American Indian and Alaska Native youth. Second, the needs of our population of focus, the needs of our youth population of focus aligned with the content of the Zuni Life Skills program as follows. Whoops, I am such a bad typist. Sorry about that. Okay. Boy, what the heck did I have going on there? Skills. Didn't even know what I wanted. Okay, SK. All right, now let's go up here and look. Each lesson in the curriculum contains standard skill training techniques for providing information. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy all of this right here. I'm going to go down here and paste it again. I'm going to make it into a chart, providing information about helpful or harmful effects. Okay, that's going to be one line. Modeling of target skills, experiential activities, behavioral reversal, feedback for skills. The sessions follow, let's see, provide. Okay, and then I'll probably just do this. Okay, provide material relevant to students in general as well as students who are at the most at risk for suicide. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to insert a table. Insert a table, boom. Okay, I'm going to scroll it over here and I'm going to add one more column, insert column to the right. And then I'm going to put a little row above, insert row above. Oops, shoot, did it wrong, hold on. Okay, insert row above. Okay, so this is going to be called, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let me go back and undo. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put my cursor here and I'm going to try to insert, let me try putting my cursor here, insert. I want to insert my column to the left. I want to put my empty column. Try it again. Insert, maybe it's insert columns to the right. Oh no. All right. What I'm going to have to do, what I want to do is reverse this. So I'll have to try a couple different ways. Hold on. There we go. And now I'm going to paste it back over here. Yay. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my row. So what I want to do, I want to follow a little bit more logic. So what I want to say is these are the needs for our population, our youth population of focus. And then I'm going to call this proposed Zuni program. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about, so what do I know? So provide information about helpful or harmful effects of certain behaviors. Presumably in your section A needs assessment, you talked about what are the problems that your youth are experiencing. And so let's say, you know, our youth are experiencing trauma. I'm going to put historical and current. And mental health and substance use problems. Now, I do want to make a point here. Even though I am using a template for grant writing that had to do with, I think it was tribal opioid response, this particular example I'm giving you is a little more mental health related. So we just can't go through every possible grant in this very short time. So for the moment, pretend the grant that we're working on right now is more of a mental health grant. But you would do the same thing if you were going to do an opioid prevention program. It would just be hard to find one for Native youth. It's hard to find any opioid programming for youth other than primary prevention. But either way, so you can see, and I would even put a note here that says, as described in section A. And you may have to go back and tweak your section A after you do this. So theoretically, you would have already had a good handle on what your kids need or whatever, if you adult women or pregnant women or criminal justice, whatever your population is, you would have a really good handle on what they needed. You would have described it really well in section A. That's what would have helped you pick your program. I'm just kind of forcing your choice here just to demonstrate how to write this up. So I would then, so voila, so our youth are experiencing trauma and they have mental health and substance use problems, and Zuni provides information about helpful or harmful effects of certain behaviors. And so So then I might also say, and can benefit from information about harmful behaviors such as suicide and substance use, or something like that. Okay, modeling of target skills. And I'm making this up, y'all, but this, you would not make it up in real life. Okay, so again, I'm just trying to demonstrate. So I would say many of our youth many of our youth come from homes with parents who, based on their own traumas, are not always equipped to model skills needed by their children. Now, this obviously has to be true. Again, you'd want to add a sentence or two. You know, I'm working backwards. Really, you would work the other direction. But so this would say, so you see that there's a benefit in a program that offers modeling. Now, you may not line up with each one of these, but so there might be some that say NA, but then here you might say our knowledge of our youth population helps us understand the benefits they will receive by having experiential, I don't know if that was supposed to say experimental or experiential, but whatever it would be, that I would have to verify that experimental activities. I think that was supposed to be experiential, meaning that they get a chance to practice, and they get to not just see it modeled by others, but they get to kind of practice it themselves. So they will receive by having opportunities to practice helping activities, or activities that would help their mental health and substance use. Behavioral rehearsal for skill acquisition. Many of our youth are pressured at school and in community settings to engage in substance use and other dangerous behaviors. And would therefore benefit from opportunities to practice new rehearsal skills. Feedback for skill refinement. You know, maybe you say something here about our youth appreciate feedback from their peers more than others. So we will ensure some feedback is provided by their peer group, as well as by trusted professionals or something. And then last but not least, provide material relevant to students in general, as well as to students who are more at risk for suicide. And so then you might say, while we intend to prioritize youth who are at risk for suicide. It will benefit, or the information, let's see, the information provided by the Zuni program will also benefit others who may become exposed to the program. Okay, so I think you have an idea now. Again, I made this up within just a few minutes, and you know your population better, and you know, now look at all the white space I left here, which you never want to have that much when you're in a grant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch this column out to the margin, and then I'm going to move this way over. So you can see that now it just took up a whole lot of less space by doing it that way. So, and if I really am concerned about space, you're allowed to go in to size 10 font for SAMHSA. Now, every grant is different, so make sure you're allowed to do that, but you have to call it a chart. So I might call it chart 1, and now I can make it size 10. But now, again, verify whoever you're writing for that most of the grants allow your font size to be smaller in a charter graph, but you'll have to verify that each time. So what you can see now is I started providing the general, description of the EBP. Then why did we pick it? So we selected, because look, or even if you didn't select it because of that, you are demonstrating why this will be a good fit, because it aligns with the needs of your population. And you'll want to go back and pepper into hopefully you already had it, but into your needs assessment, some of these same kinds, making the case here that your kids are at risk for suicide, they're living in homes where their families may be so burdened themselves by trauma or COVID or whatever that they're not as equipped to provide this modeling as they might normally be able to do. And that's why you're asking for this funding for this program. And just to make sure that the reviewer sees that I answered these little nuances, I'm going to say, I'm going to underline this whole sentence so that they can't miss that I answered that little prompt. I'm probably going to go, I'm going to underline this little prompt so now I got to go, I always go back and forth and reread. So did I identify the evidence-based? That will, okay, now, and traditional practices. Okay, I almost missed that one. See, I had to go back to it a couple times, but I've got a really nice description of the program. I have a good justification for selecting it. I'll probably now go ahead here and I'm going to say that based on our own experience, who can argue with that? Based on our own experience, our own cultural experience, we understand that integrating our native traditional practices with other helping programs is more beneficial than just standalone programs. Therefore, we will also provide So now what you're going to do is talk about any cultural practices that you might integrate with this. For example, maybe some of these life skills can get taught through a talking circle, or maybe you're going to encourage kids to go to a powwow on the weekend instead of doing something that might be potentially high risk or dangerous, or you know, instead of having a lot of unsupervised time on their hands to get in trouble, you're going to make sure that your program is filled with lots of literature about, you know, Native events that are happening in your tribal community, and you're going to make sure they have transportation if they want to go, or you'll help them arrange to get there, or you'll get them there virtually. Or so this is where you would write whatever it is you want to do to bolster what you are proposing. So now I'm going to underline this little thing. So there's no way they can miss that I've answered every prompt they have. Now I got to go back because there was one last one, and that is and focus. So why is it appropriate for the population? Actually, I'm going to reverse the order because I'm going to go in that exact order. So I am going to move this little ditty right here. I'm going to move it up above the chart because it can't. I try to follow the sequence if it can be done logically. It's not always able to be done logically. Sometimes you just have to move it out of sequence, but you can never move out of sequence. You can never move prompts in section A to B, or B to D, or C to A. You always have to keep your prompts exactly where they are. And but you can sometimes reallocate them in the same little paragraph there, if it makes for a better flow. And then you might want to tell the grant reviewer you did that. Okay, so now my last little ditty here to have this section complete. You can see I'm almost at 2 pages already. It says, why is it chosen? Okay, and the outcomes I want to achieve. So I'm going to just make a little copy of that, and I'm going to say, okay. We reviewed the evaluation findings. Remember, that was the first one of the first pages I showed you. Findings. Oh no, that wasn't, never mind. We reviewed the evaluation findings for Zuni life skills to understand the outcomes associated and that we can expect to likewise achieve. And then I'll say, I'll just add this word here, specifically, the program evaluation, included so and so and so and so and so and so. So then I'm gonna call this the outcomes. I'm just gonna underline just so that they know I answered that. Now, sometimes keep in mind that these are not always perfect. In other words, in a perfect world, you would find lots of American Indian Alaska Native programs developed by and for. In a perfect world, you would not only find those programs for the racial ethnic group you're looking for, but you would find it by lots of other categories like youth or adults or pregnant women or criminal justice involved or homeless or this, that, or the other. But we know that we've done a real crappy job nationally for many, many years of really highlighting and studying programs by race, gender, ethnicity. Many of these were developed by and for Caucasians. So we have a real limit, unfortunately, in what we can point to if we really want to implement a program by and for Native people. So and a lot of these studies that were done, including this one, were old. They were done years and years ago. So it's hard to then say, well, wow, these are the exact outcomes we want. You might want outcomes that are much better. And so you can say here that while we hope to achieve similar outcomes as the developer, we are hoping that by integrating Native cultural practices, we can enhance these outcomes even further. Now, somewhere when you were implementing an evidence-based program, you should make sure that you reach out to the developer of that program for guidance. You may want to have a little bit of consulting money attached in your budget so that you can bring them in to help you. If you start not getting good outcomes, and the first thing you do is you look back at your implementation. If, were there 20 modules you were supposed to implement, you only implemented 5, or that the kids didn't like some of the modules, and so you're now not sure what to do. And so at some point, a grant reviewer is going to wonder if you're implementing a program that's already kind of a packaged, effective program. They learn there's a lot that might be helpful by having that developer involved. Maybe they have an update to the curriculum and you were on a website that didn't have it updated. Again, the loss of that master national registry we used to have, where you could look it up by race, ethnicity, population of focus, and everything else. The loss of that is huge because now there's no one central place to go. So you have to go helter-skelter everywhere to try to find these programs. And so the things I'm walking you through, there might even be a better website somewhere. I don't know. I don't know everything, and I don't always have the time to spend hours and hours plowing through. So, what I would say here is that, lastly, it should be noted that we either have contacted the developer of the program and gotten her agreement to provide guidance and consultation if needed, and have allocated a small budget line item for this purpose, which can be expanded if needed. You just want to get something in there in case you need it. Or you can say, if you don't have a lot of time and you haven't done this, you can say, lastly, it is our intention to reach out to the program developer to get some assistance. So, or you could even get a letter of support from them, a letter of, not support, we don't say that anymore, letter of collaboration. And we'll talk about the difference in a few minutes, but getting them, maybe you have a letter in there saying, yes, so-and-so reached out and we've made a plan to implement this program to collectively, that kind of a thing. Maybe they even become one of your evaluators of your program or something. So there's so many different scenarios to walk through here. But I think by and large, I wanted you to just see how in a matter of, I literally have 2 pages. I mean, it starts halfway through, but this is literally 2 pages of text. Now, one of the things I do, I'm just going to show you, if I'm out of space, I get rid of, this is why I told you always use this show hide paragraph marker. Sometimes I get rid of all of my paragraph markers and I indent where the new paragraphs start. And that's because I even make it where there's not even a space after the chart. Whatever you have to do to fit the stuff in, then you do it. If it means leaving points on the table or having less white space, I'm going to make it where they can't take any points away from me. They'd have to show me, well, where did I not include that? So anyway, this is just a little formatting trick I do, and only if I need it. And then, I might leave it with plenty of space the first time out. Then when I finish my whole grant, I go back and look and see, what do I have? Now, while I'm on that subject, I'm going to show you another little formatting trick. Okay, so do you see how I've used up a whole, by the way, by doing that, just taking those paragraphs away, I probably created enough for a whole new paragraph of text. So that shows how much real estate is missing by just paragraph markers. I have done another thing but it's a little more time consuming. And that is if I'm going to undo here and put all my markers back in to give me some more space. It always looks nicer that way if you can do it. But one of the other things I've done is if I want to leave a space, I will highlight my little nyet and I go up and I reduce the size font to size 4. So that while I do still use size 12 font, size 12 font for the narrative, because you're required to, my spaces aren't using 12. So that means I might pick up 3 or 4 sentences off each page that I can. So you can see I now have a nifty little space there. It's just not very much. And there's a way to do that where you can build it into your template where you only leave a 4 font space in between. You can set it up where you're not having to manually do that. But, and sometimes you only have to do this. You might write your whole grant and be over, normally I'm over 1 page. If I answer every question robustly, I'm at least over a page. And the first thing I do before I try to cut anything is I eliminate some of the paragraph markers and maybe just a few in each section, and then if that doesn't, and sometimes you're just needing a little tweak here and there, but I told you, look at this. I'm using a whole line for the word practices. That's a real waste. I'm taking up this whole empty line. So now what I might do is I'm going to go up to this paragraph and I'm going to find a word I can eliminate that will bring this word back up. So, so instead of keep saying the American Indian Life Skills Development Curriculum, I've already said it a bunch of times. Yes, I've already sent it a bunch of times. So what I might do is say, I might just get rid of this and say the Zuni program or curriculum. And then let's see if I brought my spacer up. Yep. So now I got, in fact, I got a whole bunch of space back, but so I'll do that. I'll find all the lines that are just over by a word or two. And maybe I abbreviate some things. Maybe instead of spelling out numbers, I use, something in here said it was a 3-week program, 3 times a week. You could find another way to abbreviate that. Like here, see how this says 3 times a week and that takes up that much space. I might do something like this. I might do 3 times a week. 3 times a week, something like that. Anything I can do to just, and then I look and see, did it bring it up a line? If not, I put it right back. So these are just little tiny formatting tricks that I'll do just to make sure something gets in page range. Now, also, I have now I verified that I have answered every single thing here. All of these things have been answered. So you are required by SAMHSA to keep the header and to keep the number. So section C only had a number 1. You are not required to keep all this. So literally all I have to do is get rid of this and I will do this. And now I've left my section C. They know I'm now in section 1 and I now picked up 3 more lines. But I don't do that until I made sure I've answered every single, I'm going to put it all back because I'm going to be sending, I'm going to be sending you this example. I'm going to email you this whole document. So I want to leave it all in for now. But anyway, so hopefully you can see I literally whipped out a major section of a grant in 30 minutes or so. And you can do the same. Once you know, sometimes you just need to know what it is they're looking for because it's not always clear. So I'm just telling you, this is how I did it. I have a great track record. I can't guarantee you that, however you do it is going to be how they like it. A lot of it also depends on the reviewer themselves, whether the grant reviewer, who the grant reviewer is. So it's really like winning the lottery on some level. So I can just tell you that it always works for me. And so I keep doing it this way. All right, so let's go back to, and if anyone has any questions about this section while I am going back to our PowerPoint to go to the next one. Feel free to put in the chat or to unmute yourself. See anything so far, Megan, on any questions of the evidence-based practice section?
Not yet.
Okay. So now we're going to document how organizational experience, how do you document your organizational experience in a grant? Normally they want the staff level of effort, their role, and their culturally relevant experience. So now we'll go back to our Word document again. So we'll see, what are they asking for now? And are you back seeing my grant again, the narrative?
Yep.
Good. So they want a complete list of staff positions for the project, including key personnel, project director, and other significant personnel. Describe the role of each, their level of effort, qualifications. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I only get, look how much, 1 page. That's like ridiculous. That's almost impossible. So I know I'm going to have to do a chart. So I'm going to insert a table. I'm going to, this one is going to be, what do they want to know? They want to know staff positions. They want to know the role of each. They want to know the level of effort. I'm going to put that over here with staff, LOE for level of effort. And they want to know qualifications. And whoops, and somewhere in here, so do I have, let's see, I've got that, I got and the experience providing services. I'm going to put qualifications. This is because I'm going to go ahead and put next to this experience with POP of focus, language, and culture. So, oops, population of focus. That doesn't look good, does it? Focus, FOCUS. Okay. So now I've got my chart. Know that again, I'm going to end up making this size 10 font. So let's call it project director. I always want one of those. I would first verify, does my project director have to be, I'd go back to the FOIA, the funding opportunity announcement. Very often in SAMHSA, they will tell you what level of effort some of the staff have to be. Usually they just tell you your project director must be full-time or must be at least 50%, or they'll give you that guidance. So first I'm going to go back and make sure, which I won't bore you with, but so let's, and I always like to have the project director already named because it gives the reviewer a lot of guidance, a lot of comfort to know you guys are going to hit the ground running because you've already identified a project director. One of the things I like to do is pick an existing staff member that I know can get a project up and running and do a good job, that they've done it before. I'd rather move them into this new project and have a, you know, horse that I know can get across the finish line and replace them in their old job, where I have a little more time and I have other staff that are already knowing what to do and how to keep that program on autopilot. So I'll bring my talent over to my new project to get it up and running, if it works out, if that makes sense in your world. If not, you know, then interview somebody, pick somebody, even if you end up swapping them out, because we all know that this is only good for a point in time. You could get somebody to agree to be your project director, and by the time the grant sits at SAMHSA for a month or two, then they get the reviewers and the reviewers review them, and then the feds have to go back through and decide who they're going to fund, and months are ticking by. By then, your person could have accepted another job, and they know that. But what it does by having somebody in mind like that is it shows the grant reviewer that you know what it takes. You know the type of person it takes to pull off this particular project. So we're just gonna say, okay, our project director is Wynn Woodis. Their role to manage the day-to-day program or project, to manage the day-to-day project implementation. So they're going to manage project implementation. work directly with the project evaluator, interface with the federal government project officer, manage all project partnerships. I'm going to maybe come back and add some more things there. This person is going to be, let's say, 100% FTE, full-time equivalent, or I might say 50% time, whatever it is that, and I know this column doesn't need to be really big because it's just going to have their name and their level of effort, where the role is here. Now, their qualifications. I always do this. If I feel like they need a master's degree, I'll say master's degree in related field or comparable experience managing, no, successfully, comparable comparable experience successfully managing a federal project of this size and scope or something like that, or a similar project or whatever. What that does is that if I don't have a project director with a master's degree already lined up, or if I need to replace them at some later point, I've already set the stage that it's more important to me to have somebody who knows how to do this than a piece of paper that says they have a certain type of degree or not. Now, I'm also thinking here about adding now, if I already know that I've got this person, I'm just making up Ren Woodis. If I know that I already have her, I'm going to put her experience in there. I'm going to say master's degree in social work, 7 years of this, that, and the other. So I'm going to make it specific to her. And then I'll say see resume or something like that. However, if I do, I'm going to change this for now to say TBD, to be determined. And then I'm going to say, so they should have a master's degree. They should have this. I'm going to say the successful candidate. Oops, and it's UCC. The successful candidate must have 2 or more years of effective, credible experience with the PAPA focus. Let's see, language. So I don't know that that the person may automatically know the tribe's language, because we know even a lot of tribal members themselves don't always know the language. I know that's efforts are being made to bring language back to the forefront in many tribal communities. So that's increasing, but it may not be easy to get somebody with all the skills that you need to run this project and that they also know your tribal language. But let's say you were working with a population that also that you had a large Hispanic population or another language, you would then mention that, or you could say experience with tribal language, a plus. And then you could also say, what else? Culture. So the successful candidate must have 2 or more years of effective, credible experience with the population of focus and knowledge of our cultural traditions. Something like that. So this would be about the level of detail. The only other thing, just for extra points, I am going to say here, I'm trying to decide if I want the project director to be responsible for monitoring Fidelity. Like if you are implementing Zuni and it has 20 modules and module 7 is supposed to be, I'm making this up, it's supposed to be something that where you involve the parents of the kids and you're supposed to have them all there together and you're supposed to be teaching something. And if I were the supervisor of this model, I might pop in unexpectedly to see how my person that's supposed to be running that is doing. We call that monitoring implementation fidelity. So if the schedule says you're supposed to be on module 7 and it's supposed to have parents and and I get there and you're, there's no parents, you're on module 5, nobody really knows where you are, the handouts aren't right, I will then do some correction. We call it wayward. We will correct wayward implementation. Those are very important words. Correction of wayward implementation. So I might add up here, I might say work directly with the project evaluator, including to correct wayward implementation and to implement ongoing quality improvement. Every funder wants to know that whatever data you collect, you were using to the good of your program, that you were using to make sure that you just don't see it's running off the road, but you do something about it. Maybe that means getting the developer involved or whatever. But either way, I've now probably put a little extra points on because I've taken the time to work in that that's their role. Manage day-to-day project implementation. I might even add here, and weekly staff meetings. Everyone wants to know that there is some organization and structure to your implementation. You're not just winging it, that you have that management structure in place, and that should fall to your project director. Now, if I had a clinical director here, then I might now talk about their role would be, reviewing cases, recommending, solutions when, when a staff member is struggling with a particular client, participating in clinical supervision of the staff, whereas the project director might be managing the implementation. Are you implementing in all the different sites we said? Are you implementing as described? Is everything on track? Are our partners holding up whatever they said they were going to do? That's what the project director does. If you had a clinical person, not every program is going to have a clinical, depends on the program model you're implementing, but you would differentiate here what a clinical person, clinical coordinator would do versus a project director. Now, mostly they want to see what they call the key staff. Your key staff are your project director, your evaluator, some of your counselors or your program specialists. Do you have to put a lot of detail in for a part-time receptionist? No. What you might do at the end is, because you're going to run out of room, is you might here have, and I like to do this. This is another formatting trick. See, I highlighted the last row and I'm merging cells. And because I want to keep it where I can put everything to 10% or 10 font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it in the chart and I'm going to call it a reviewer note. This is for the grant reviewer. In addition to the key personnel above, we will include a 0.25% time receptionist and and I'm making this up. I'm just showing you how to and a 15% time digital media specialist or something like that. See resumes for additional information. I might do something like that if I'm out of room. If I have room, I'll put in I just might have a lot less detail than this. Also, you know, I'm gonna also squeak this over a little bit. You know, I'm always doing this to kind of get it all balanced. Now, I will show you another formatting trick. It looks ugly, but usually you're not judged on the formatting as long as you meet the font requirements and everything else. So let's say that, and I'm just going to demonstrate this and then I'm going to erase it, but I'm going to show you. Let's say that you have, for whatever reason, your next staff person takes a lot more room to describe. And so you're trying to figure out how to, don't pay attention to the text in here. This is just looking at, wow, look at all the white space I have here. What you can do is and this is there's probably an easier way to do this, but I put my cursor right there and I insert a page break. And then I go down, I scroll back down to the next page. Okay. Now I'm going to move this over there to see what it almost gets equal. There, look how equal that is. Now I'm going to eliminate my page break again, and I'm going to let them come together. When you keep them together, you can't edit them when they're together like that because it'll format your whole chart this way. But you can see that I now, you know, so it's ugly, it's not neat and pretty, but it does get everything in and allows me to have that extra room that I needed on this particular side. I don't do this very often, but if I have to, I will. If it means not leaving, if I have to either leave something on the cutting room floor or I get to include what I need to have in there, I'll do it. I'm just going to do undo.
Hey, Pam.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Linda had a question. Would you want to put maybe 5 to 10% of fiscal person?
You might have to put more of one. It depends on what that person really needs to do. If you have a very small staff, you can probably get by with a 10 or 15 or 5% fiscal person. But what you want to make sure of is that that if you've got a lot of budget reports that you have to do for your government project officer, I don't know what the lift is. I don't know if you're having to turn in a budget every month, if you're having to turn in financial reports, if you're having to order a bunch of supplies. If there are lots of things that that person should do, then you might need to have more of their time. You know, you will almost always have to at least have some part of a fiscal person. Now, some projects call it overhead, and they will charge an overhead percentage to fund their HR and their fiscal budget functions. And so they might charge, and I'm making up this number, 20% of the grant goes to that. If that's, and I'm not an expert in that, so I can't advise you, but I know that if you're going to charge overhead for those functions that tend to cross program areas, like everybody has to have budgets and everybody has to have personnel involved. So you can't double dip. You can't include it in your overhead and then also create special staff separately in the budget. So just make sure that however you approach it, it's reasonable. If you have a super large staff, you might need more than 15 or 20%. I always like to think about it in hours. So I say to myself, wow, what's a 5% time? Well, in a 40-hour week, a 5% time is 2 hours. So in a month, that means they're going to work 8 hours. Well, if I know that, geez, it takes them that long to do their monthly financial reports, that gives them no time for anything else I might need them to do. I might need to up that a bit. So you just remember too, that when you do the budget, you have to put a written justification for how did you arrive at that percentage. So you would say the budget person will be completing 2 reports a month. I'm making this up. I don't know what your lift will be, but you know, that's approximately 2 hours each. They'll need to handle all of our supply ordering, which will be 2 hours a month. They'll need to do, and so then you total it all up and bingo, it's at whatever your percent is. Other people you might have would be, I'll tell you this, if you were writing a grant for a treatment program or a program that involved recruiting, meaning that it's very important for you to bring people to your front door, that needs to absolutely positively be in this chart. Whose job is it? So I might have an outreach coordinator here, even if it's only 25% time. And their job would be to actively, market our project, visit all referral sources. I call them referral pipelines. They love that word, pipelines. That sounds like you got a lot of them flowing in. Visit all referral pipelines monthly. Disseminate posters, or maybe say create and disseminate. Create and disseminate outreach posters. In high visibility areas. Create social marketing messages. For multimedia. Create Facebook page. Create and continually update. Create and continually update. Facebook page specific to the project, et cetera, et cetera. Now, one last thing before we go to the next two things, because we're almost getting out of time here, is that your bio sketches, your 1-paragraph bio sketch, if they ask you for that, or your 1-page, you're usually for SAMHSA allowed a 2-page resume, and you're only allowed a 1-page job description. Everything you put in this role column needs to be in your job description, and it needs to be in their resume. You should have a 1-for-1 alignment. And if you run out of room, you can also say here, see job descriptions for more detail. That lets them know that you're at least even thinking about the important alignment. And then here you can say, see resumes for more detail. So you're tying all this together with a nice, neat bow. And so this is absolutely critical. And you'd obviously have an evaluator, and you'd have lots of other staff. You might have an information specialist. You might have a counselor. You might have a health educator. I don't know what program you're writing for. So, if this were life skills, you might need a life skills teacher or a life skills implementer. You might need 3 of them. Maybe you're going to be at 3 different schools, You don't have to repeat them over and over. Let's say you had a life skills specialist. And you might have life skills specialist, and you might have 2 full-time, 1 50% time. You don't need to repeat the same thing 3 different times and chew up a bunch of space. So if they're the same job, you describe it in the same way. You just say, there's going to be that are 2 are full-time. 2 are full-time and 1 is 50% time. Okay, so what I want to do now, and I'm going to send you all of these, everything I'm typing here, you're going to get so that you'll have this as a guide. Okay, now let's stop sharing this. We're going to go back real quick to PowerPoint because I want to show you the last. Okay, do I show back at the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops, there we go. Okay, we've already created a bunch of templates. I showed you how to create the how to compare your evidence-based program with the needs of your community. We created a timeline a couple weeks ago. By the way, the timeline where it says who does what when, that's what we recommend you use as your implementation plan if you get the grant. So if you get the grant, go back, grab that timeline that shows everything from, you might remember we talked about, alert the news media, alert the tribal leaders to the grant award, alert our partners, alert everybody who worked on it. Hire staff from the ready applicant pool, advertise, for the project start date, get all of our training that we need to get done in our life skills program, whatever, all your step by step, have weekly staff meetings, have monthly meetings with the project partners, yada, yada, yada. Whatever you do, that should then become your implementation. That when you have your monthly staff meetings or your weekly implementation staff meetings, however often you have them, you ought to have that printed up. Somebody ought to sit in real time with it on the computer. And as you will discover, remember that timeline is an abbreviated version of what you'll end up doing in real life. In real life, all kinds of detail will get pulled in there, such as you'll have, meetings at the school system, or you might have to go make a meeting at a community advisory board, or you might be writing public service announcements to advertise your program starting, or you might create posters to put out in the community. Whatever you say you're going to do, just start plowing that in, add it in. And then you'll have a really nice, comprehensive implementation checklist of everything you did, which your evaluator will also appreciate. So we've already done all of these. Now let's cover the last thing. And this is the letter of collaboration. Please know that a letter of collaboration is not the same as a support letter. A support letter is just rah, cheerleader. Oh, we support this program. It's important. We think it's needed. That doesn't say anything. And most funders will throw them out. They want, and they'll make it, many, not all, will make a distinction that they want a collaboration letter. The difference in a collaboration letter is that it speaks to what is the partner doing. So sometimes you have to subcontract them, that you're going to rent space from them, or they're going to provide you the staff psychologist, or they're going to provide you the transportation and you're going to pay them for rides, or their whatever. Sometimes they do something free, like we're going to provide all of your program referrals because it helps us out as well. So be sure that a letter of collaboration, and these can be a real work of art. So I want to point out intentionally why I wrote, this is a real letter, by the way, that I just changed a couple of ingredients. So on behalf of the students and faculty of the XYZ High School, this is assuming this is a high school program, I am pleased to provide this letter of collaboration. Now, first of all, in case they mistake this as a letter of support, I'm at least calling it a collaboration letter for your proposed Project Thrive. As a high school serving students in the 9th to 12th grade in a mostly unincorporated suburban and rural homestead area, we are, now my little toolbar is in the way, we are aware that many of your students are at risk of or experience trauma from natural disasters like hurricanes and from family and community violence and other factors. And by the way, this was a letter for a grant for trauma in South Florida, where they had a lot of natural disasters that wiped out whole communities. And so what I've done here, by the way, I believe in writing the letters for your collaborators. If you leave it to them, they will not always align it back with what you need them to say, because they don't always understand the grant like you do, because you're writing it, they're not. Or B, they might not put this fine point that you really want to have. So I write it for them, but then I send it to them in an email, and I put in big letters, feel free to change anything you want on this. This is an example of what I'm looking for that you can use as is, or tweak it, edit, whatever, add, subtract, just because I want to make sure they're comfortable with it. And usually they'll leave it as is, or they'll change a word or two or whatever. But I do that because I leave nothing to chance. And you'll get it back faster because all they have to do is put it on their letterhead. Okay, so now what I've done in paragraph 1 is not only mentioned it's a collaboration letter, reinforced it, and I've reinforced where this is all happening, but I am validating the problem. I'm saying we're aware that these students experience a lot of trauma, and they experience it from natural disasters. And we also have community violence. So I'm sort of affirming, as the collaborator, as the partner, because that's who's writing this theoretically, I am now validating that what you're writing the grant for is true and that I see it as well. Now, here's the catch. We have enjoyed our decades-long relationship with your staff and welcome the opportunity to collaborate again. Obviously, you can't say that if it's not true, but maybe yours is a 3-year-long relationship. Maybe it's 20 years. What that does is it automatically lets the grant reviewer know that you didn't decide to go out and find a partner because you're chasing some money, that you've been working with these partners for many years, that you understand the value of having partners. Now, if it's a new problem or you just never had this, you might not be able to do it. And it's not a deal breaker if you can't do it. But if you can, definitely give yourself credit for any prior relationship you've had with this partner. Then I say the youth we have referred in previous years have clearly benefited, and we appreciate the efforts of your team in this difficult work. There's all kinds of little pearls woven in there that we're doing a great job. We've done it for years. The kids are getting better, and we know it's not easy. These are not lightweight situations. Based on previous experience, so I had to come up with why 25 referrals per year, because that's based on our prior experience, that we're going to give you 25 a year. Maybe this would have been 25 a month. It depends on what it is you're saying you're doing. We were serving 4 or 5 different areas, and they were all contributing. We were going to serve 100 in a year, and I think we had 6 groups doing 25 a year. So we had more to choose from than we needed in case we lose some. We wish you well and hope for a favorable grant award. Please advise us as soon as you learn about the status of this grant. And here's the other kicker. So we can join your planning efforts. That's a nice little thing too, to let them know that you're going to have an ongoing relationship with these partners. That means you can count on them for help as you go forward. So anyway, these can be a work of art. And when I write these on behalf, I usually will send a sample and then we'll change it around. So, you'll use different font sizes, different margins, maybe some are what do you call when you're lined up all the way on the right, the margin is, jagged. In some cases it's fixed, margins. Some is different size font, because the letters can be any size font. They're all going to be on different letterheads. Sometimes I might sign it warm regards or respectfully or sincerely, so that they don't quite look like a form letter, because again, this is not being dishonest. This is being realistic, but you have to only put what's accurate. So you can't make stuff up. So anyway, but this gives the grant reviewer, again, taking the time to really document what your past experience has been like, if there is one, if it's favorable, from that partner's perspective. And they will often add lots of other wonderful things in the letters. We don't want to get too braggadocious, but they might go in and put lots of other things, different awards that they've provided us or what have you. So anyway, that is it. That is all I have for us today, for wrapping our, very hard to do a 2.5-day class in essentially 6 hours. So I'm sure there's a lot more we could cover, and hopefully we'll have a face-to-face one sometime soon. But I want to stop there first, and thank you very much for your attention and for coming all these days, and to see if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Pam. While you guys ponder whether you have any questions, I wanted to let you know that we're going to send out an email that will include the things Pam wants you to have, and then our GIPRA evaluation that takes less than 5 minutes that's required. And then we are evaluating this program training series. So we have a very important follow-up survey containing, I think, 10 questions, 10 or 11. That shouldn't take too much time, but it would be really helpful if you guys could take the time to fill those out, so we can keep providing these free trainings and improve any areas that need be. Feedback is always welcome, of course. So with that, do you guys have any questions for Pam or I?
Was this helpful? Maybe you can just put in the chat box if this was helpful, if it was too complicated, if it wasn't complicated enough, any kind of feedback would be really helpful.
Hi, this is Tamara.
Hi, Tamara.
I just wanted to say that this was so helpful. Like just the way you break it down, I need very simple layman terms, and I love how detailed you are. Like as someone who has never written a grant, freshly starting out, like, I mean, I'm so happy that this was free, and just thank you for this. It was very helpful.
Well, good. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Tamara, and appreciate your commitment to attending these sessions. I'm glad you and I got together and made that possible. And you can.
Yes, no, thank you. I was literally like barely making it in, and I was like, I have to attend this, and I'm so happy I did. Again, it was just, I definitely feel more confident in being able to write a grant, and it's out there. I mean, from what I can see, from what I've been looking, the money's out there.
Big
Yeah.
time. Big
Yep.
time. Yep.
Yep, and that'll be a good, you're gonna be a perfect candidate to fill out this post survey, all of you, and especially, like what you just said, beginning grant writer. It's really important for us to know that stuff, so.
Yeah, because if we can't show that it is effective or people find it helpful, then they can the whole thing. So, and we'd like to keep on doing these and maybe kick them up a notch. And, we even had one where you could send in sample grants and we critique them for you. So, I mean, this can be the gift that keeps on giving, but we do need to get the surveys done to show. And again, they only take 5 or 10 minutes of your time. But if you could take the time to do that, we'd appreciate it, because we'd like to keep on providing as much help as we can.
And we'll get those, right? I might have missed that. They'll come to us
Yep.
via email.
Yeah, I figured instead of bombarding you with 2 emails, I'll send it to you guys all in one that has everything included once Pam gets me the, last information she wanted you guys to have.
I want to
Okay,
give you that
perfect.
handout that I was working on today in real time.
Okay.
So we'll send, so that you'll have examples to go by.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, it was nice to see you all again today, and I wish you the best of luck in the future with this. I wanted to share with Pam that Linda had said this has been great. Chrissy said many, many thanks. Mary said this is very, very helpful. Information and examples have been very helpful. In person would, of course, be more helpful. People think
Yeah.
if you're at your desk, even with headphones and screens on, but the price is sure right. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to meet with Pam and pick her brain. So,
Well, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Happy to do it. All right, y'all, we'll go forth and start milking. We need to see the money. Show me the money. Let's get it, bring it in. Get your shovels ready.
right.
Okay,
Thank
y'all, you
you.
take care. Stay safe out there.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone. Bye.